Hello everyone. Today, while I'm working on these paintings, I wanted to talk about something that I've been thinking about a lot lately, and that is why people seem to stop being creative when they grow up. Well, if you think about it, when we're kids, creativity is everywhere. Kids draw constantly, they make up stories, imaginary worlds, strange creatures, and really weird inventions of their own. They basically build things out of random objects and they play pretend without even thinking about it. Creativity is just a normal part of being a child. But somewhere along the way, something changes. When people become teenagers or adults, a lot of them start saying things like, I'm not creative, or I can't draw, or I'm just not an artistic person. And that's always been strange to me because if you look at kids, almost every single one of them is creative in some way. And while you look at the kids' parents, they like sometimes just show you so many of their drawings. So it raises an interesting question for me, which is what actually happens to creativity as people grow up? I don't think creativity disappears personally. I think something else happens. I think people just slowly stop using it. One of the first reasons this happens is the way school trains us to think. And that's what I see from how I grew up. So, in school, most of the time, we're taught that there's a correct answer and an incorrect answer. And on tests, you're rewarded for being right and you're penalized for being wrong. And over time, this can train people to avoid making mistakes as much as possible. And I do remember times that, for example, I would do a math equation a different way and get a correct answer, but the teacher would still make it wrong because it wasn't the way it was supposed to be. But creativity works almost in the opposite way than you would normally work out things. When you're creating something, whether it's a drawing or a painting, or maybe you're writing a story or designing something, even if you're solving a problem, in math, mistakes are actually a big part of the process. You try things that don't work, you're experimenting, and sometimes you fail before you find something interesting. And kids naturally do this without worrying about it. They draw something, they erase it, they scribble over it with their pencil, they try again. They don't think about whether it's good enough or whether it's bad. But as people grow up, they start associating mistakes with failure instead of learning. And when people are afraid of making mistakes, they often stop experimenting. When you stop experimenting, creativity just slowly fades away naturally. Another big reason people stop being creative is a fear of judgment. When kids draw something, they usually don't worry about what other people think. A kid might draw a purple elephant flying through the space and they're completely proud of it. To them, it's just an idea they had. Adults are very, very different. Adults often think about how their work will be judged. They might think things like, what if people think about this and they think that it looks bad? Or what if someone says I'm not good at this? Social media has made this even stronger. people are constantly seeing the best work from artists around the world. When someone compares their beginner work to someone who has been practicing for 10 years, it can really feel discouraging. That comparison can make people feel like there's no point in trying, even. But the truth is, every creative person started somewhere. No artist begins with amazing work. All creative skills come from practice over time. Another thing that often stops creativity is perfectionism. Perfectionism sounds like a good thing, but when it comes to creativity, it can actually be very, very limiting. Creating work usually starts messy when you're painting and drawing and writing or building something. The first version is rarely perfect. It takes experimentation, revision, and sometimes completely changing your idea. Kids are comfortable with messy ideas, and adults often are not. Adults sometimes want their first attempt to look good immediately, and when it doesn't, they feel frustrated or discouraged. Instead of continuing and improving the idea, some people just simply stop. Perfectionism can make creativity feel stressful and instead of enjoyable. Another reason creativity actually fades away for many people is simply time and responsibilities. When you're a kid, you often have large amounts of free time. After school, you might spend an hour drawing, playing games, imagining stories, or building things with Legos. And as people grow up, life becomes more structured. There are responsibilities, work, studies, and obligations in general. That takes up time and energy. And creative hobbies sometimes get pushed aside, and that's because they feel less urgent compared to the other tasks. But interestingly, many adults who return to creative hobbies later in life say it actually helps them relax and think more clearly. Creativity can be a way to reduce stress and express thoughts that are difficult to explain with words. Another idea that affects creativity is the belief that creativity is a talent that only certain people have. A lot of people grow up believing that you're either born creative or you're not. If someone wasn't considered good at art in school, they might assume creativity just isn't for them. But creativity isn't just a talent, it's also a skill. Just like learning an instrument, playing a sport, or learning a new language, creative skills improve with practice. The more you draw, paint, or write, or design, or whatever, experiment with ideas, the more your brain learns to think creatively. The difference is that creativity often requires patience, because improvement can take time. It doesn't happen overnight. Kids naturally practice creativity because they enjoy the process. Adults sometimes avoid it because they focus too much on the result. Another interesting thing is that creativity and play are closely connected. When kids are creative, they usually are playing. They're imagining things and pretending and exploring ideas and having fun. But as people grow older, society sometimes treats play as something childish. Adults are expected to focus on productivity, efficiency, practical outcomes. Creative activities like drawing and painting, or just having random creative ideas, can be seen as less important, even though they can actually improve problem solving and innovation. Many even scientists and designers and inventors are creative in their everyday work. Creativity isn't just about art, it's about thinking in new ways. And that's why I think creativity never really disappears. It's more like a muscle. If you stop using it for a long time, it becomes weaker. But if you start using it again, it comes back surprisingly quickly. A lot of adults rediscover creativity through hobbies. Some people start painting again, others learn photography, music, writing, or crafting, which is good enough. When people allow themselves to create without worrying about perfection, they often realize that creativity can still be part of their lives. For me personally, painting is a good reminder of this idea. When I'm painting, I'm not just trying to make something look good, I'm also exploring ideas, experimenting with colors, and seeing where the process goes. Sometimes the painting turns out exactly how I imagined it, and sometimes it turns out something completely different. But that unpredictability is part of what makes creativity interesting. You're constantly learning something new. And I think if more people allowed themselves to create without pressure, they might realize they never actually lost their creativity. It's just they just stopped using it. So maybe the real question isn't why people stop being creative, but how people can reconnect with creativity again. Maybe it starts with the simple things, drawing something even if it's not perfect, trying a new hobby, allowing yourself to experiment without worrying if it's good or bad. Because creativity isn't about making perfect work, it's about exploring ideas and enjoying the process of making something that didn't exist before. I guess the interesting question right now is how people can actually reconnect with creativity again once they feel like they've lost it. I think one of the biggest and simplest ways is letting go of the idea that everything you make has to be good. You can just get your, I don't know, journal even, and just go make a quick sketch of your drink that you have in front of your tea, of the TV, of anything around you. And it doesn't have to be good, it might be a line drawing, it doesn't have to be a masterpiece. When we're kids, we draw things that look completely ridiculous sometimes, but we don't care. We just like exploring an idea. But as people get older, they just start feeling like if they're not good at something right away, then there's no point in doing it. But that's not true. There is always a point, because if you don't start somewhere, you cannot expect to be good at something. Creativity usually doesn't work like that. It's not just one day you wake up and you're creative all of a sudden. Most creative things start out really messy and imperfect, and that's kind of the point of it actually. You try something, it doesn't work, you adjust it, and slowly it turns into something better. Another thing that helps people reconnect with creativity is just doing things for fun again. A lot of adults feel like everything they do has to be productive or useful in some way. But creativity grows a lot faster when you remove that pressure and just allow yourself to make things without a specific goal. Even something simple like doodling, or a tiny painting with watercolors even, or writing random ideas down, or trying a new hobby can start bringing that creative mindset back. And I think it also helps if people stop comparing themselves to others so much. With the internet and Instagram and all these platforms, it's just really easy to see people who are incredibly skilled and feel like your own work isn't good enough. But every creative person started somewhere, and most of the time, you're comparing yourself, your beginning, to someone else's years of experience. So I think reconnecting with creativity is less about learning some special trick and more about giving yourself permission to experiment again, the same way people naturally did when they were younger. And once people start doing that again, creativity usually just comes back up surprisingly quickly. Anyway, those are some of the thoughts I had while working on these paintings today, and I'm curious what you think. Do you think people are really lose their creativity as they grow up, or do they just stop using it? And if you've ever stopped doing something creative, what made you stop? And thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Have a nice day. Bye.